Welcome. So Tess Boring is going to come today. She's going to present her research on the Deepwater Horizon oil spill and its long-term impacts on the commercial fishing industry in the Gulf of Mexico. She's been here for 6 years, the exact same amount of time I've been here now. She's probably the last student, I think, that started with me. But she's gone straight through and done her undergrad. Now she's finishing up her master's degree. So go for it. Good luck.
Okay. Alrighty. So basically, like Dr. Delmon said, I'm Tess Boring. I'm from Pikeville, Tennessee. And most of the time when people ask, well, I tell people that I'm from Pikeville, Tennessee, they wonder where in the heck that is. And if you've ever heard of Fall Creek Falls State Park, that's basically where I'm at. So like he said, we're going to be talking about the effects the Deepwater Horizon oil spill had on the commercial fishing industry from 2000 to 2020. Okay, so my motivation for this is on April 20th, 2010, the BP oil company's Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded, leaking over 200 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico over a 5-month period. This oil spill resulted in millions of dollars being lost in the Gulf of Mexico's commercial fishing industry due to closures and population loss. Estimates are highly varied, indicating that the commercial fishing industry lost between 95 million and 1.6 billion just in 2010 alone. So my hypothesis for this study is that the Gulf of Mexico was negatively affected by the oil spill and that the impacts were persistent. So the purpose for this research is this topic was chosen to show the implications of environmental shocks and their substantial long-term impacts on the commercial fishing industry. Many existing studies on the DWH focus primarily on the short-term effects, but it is also important to examine the persistence of these impacts. So basically right here, if you don't know what the Gulf of Mexico is, it's Alabama, West Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. And the commodities that I looked over for this study was white and brown shrimp, Gulf Menhaden, Eastern oysters, blue crab, and they group all the grouper together, so it's just various species. Okay, and as for the Gulf of Maine, I didn't know what it was whenever I started either. So it's Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. And as for the commodities, I done flounder, Atlantic herring, American lobster, Atlantic sea scallops, and cod and haddock, which they group those together. So my data, I thought I had a mouse. So the table is an example of the tables that I had. I wasn't going to bore y'all to death going through 43 tables. So that's just an example of the very first one. And I obtained my data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Fisheries Economics of the United States. They do a, I guess like a printout, you would call it, every year of all their data. So the econometric model, I used a simpler linear regression using OLS. The primary independent variable was sales in pounds, and the income was the dependent variables. And I used 4 dummies in this, dummy for crustaceans, dummy for the Gulf of Mexico, dummy for whether it was after the Deepwater Horizon, which whenever I go to publish this, we're going to omit 2010, just so since it happened halfway through the year. And then I also did a dummy for fish. So this is just an example of graphs. So if you look, there is not really much growth going on for the Gulf of Mexico. And I just done this because I'm a visual person. So, and then there's for the Gulf of Maine. And as you can tell, there's some more growth going on than there was in the Gulf of Mexico. And this is over a 20-year period. Okay. And so this right here is basically my results. And I would like to look at see, this is from the Gulf of Maine, and they did have losses, but I'll talk about those a little bit more later on in the presentation. And so then right here, we can see that after the Deepwater Horizon, this is for the Gulf of Mexico, there was a persistent loss through the 10 years after. So basically, Model 1, like I said, we noticed that there was a negative result for the Gulf of Mexico after the incident. So Model 2, there was some growth in Maine, but there was also some losses. And so I decided to look deeper into the losses, and they blamed the losses on overfishing and failure to recruit, which is basically, in layman's terms, is failure to spawn and survive. And they blame that on warming of the water, which is basically, they blame that on global warming. And so for Model 3, the Gulf of Maine commodities coefficients remain the same, although flounder was omitted for culinarity. The Gulf of Mexico coefficients are as follows. Eastern oysters was 48,602. Gulf of Maine was 56,891. Blue crab was 31,310. White and brown shrimp was 387,150. And grouper was also omitted for culinarity. Once again, we notice that we have our negative right there, which shows us that there was an impact after the Gulf of Mexico, after the Deepwater Horizon. So further discussion is this topic should provide a clear understanding of oil spill's effect on the commercial fishing industries. Studies such as these should bring awareness to these issues and force companies to be held accountable for their actions. And so in conclusion, the Gulf of Mexico did in fact suffer from the long-term impacts of the oil spill. Our regression tables show us that in all three models, the Gulf of Mexico showed a substantial decrease in incomes after the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. So basically, any questions now? I wanted to keep it short and simple and to the point.
Can you go back to the maps? Kind of going chronologically here. The questions that I had. Sorry, maps. Two graphs.
Two graphs. Okay. Those ones are the Gulf of Maine.
Yeah. So it looks like 2010. These are landings. This is the total amount of each of the.
Yeah, one's in dollars and one's in pounds.
Okay.
So basically, like their income in pounds.
Okay. Okay, that makes more sense. So there was a big increase in 2010 that immediately crashed.
Yes. And like I said, I just done this because I'm a visual person, and it helped me understand, you know, where the losses were at and exactly what suffered.
What's the red line in
the red line? Right? That's the Gulf Menhaden.
Sorry, but is it the same on both graphs?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. It's not. It doesn't look like there's a huge decrease in the amount that's pulled in, except for that increase that dropped off. Mm-hmm. But that's all kind of variable anyway.
Yeah.
So the only thing that really looks very clearly affected, it may be better to spread the graph out.
Yeah.
Because the bottom ones are much smaller in magnitude, but the green line is the shrimp.
Yes.
So that.
Whenever I was at first, I compared individual commodities, and I noticed that the blue crab really suffered the most out of all the commodities from the Gulf of Mexico.
They sit on the bottom, right there where everything would be. And the blue crab just sit on the bottom of the ocean or the Gulf. Right,
to be 100% honest with you, I couldn't tell you. But yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. That might be something to do.
Okay.
Going forward is to spread these out. We didn't talk about that before.
No, but that is okay.
And then can you look at the main one, the next one? So those are all increasing. Yeah. Maybe to replace what's not.
Yeah.
So your only crustaceans in here are
lobster,
crab.
Yes. And I think scallop. Yes, and I think scallops are considered them as well. That could be wrong. Yes.
Yeah. I think the crustacean was too.
Yes.
I mean, it makes sense if there are substitutes, right?
Mhm.
That the lobster and the scallop would be going up in one place
Mhm.
after. the
You could
deepwater
also, I
horizon
think you
increase.
could also like look at the demand for the years to add on to it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You could even do elasticities. with
Yes,
just-
yeah.
That would make for really good research.
Mhm.
And you could easily just use the same data.
Mhm.
You can just do like a log for the actual income system, because your parameter estimates are pretty big, right?
Mhm.
I think they're at 51,000 something.
Yes.
You do like a log conversion, and those will come down and make you to input.
Yeah.
So you could try that and just calculate like elasticity,
Mhm.
so you know, look at what happens to the income when any of these parameters change. Or what happens to the quantity when. one of
Yes,
these
yeah.
parameters change. One thing I was thinking, and this is just a suggestion also, it's pretty interesting. I don't know if you've taken the GIS course, the 782.
Yes. Yes,
Might
yeah.
be a good idea to consider doing a GIS now.
I didn't think of that.
It
Yeah.
would be a nice addition to.
Yeah.
like, kind of visually seeing what happened
Mhm.
over the last 10 or 20 years. Just kind of seeing that, you know, all is still reinforced, it might look really good on paper.
Okay. Any other questions?
What year was the oil spill?
2010.
It's right in the middle, so.
Yes, yeah. And it ran from April to September. I can't remember the exact date that they were able to get it all shut down in September, but. And that's another reason why whenever we publish this, we're gonna admit 2010, just because it happened right almost in the middle of the year.
You mark the other one again, I looked at the magnitudes here, so you've got 200,000 on the one, and what is the?
500,000,
500,000.
yes.
So about 250 for the green one. The green one is,
Mhm.
and if you go back to the other one, it's still a lot higher.
Yeah.
It might be. You'll have to talk about how the best way to show it is. I like having these graphs,
Mhm.
but I think that because there's so much some of those are huge in magnitude, some are very small. It's hard to see any
Yeah.
variation at all. We'll talk about how to do that. I've got handfuls of questions, so feel free to ask. What do you got?
It's interesting, definitely publishable, I think, once you
Thank
add
you.
some of these feedback, it'll be well received, I think.
So why did you choose the Gulf of Maine?
To be honest with you, I really couldn't tell you why. I think it was probably the one that I could find data on the easiest,
Okay.
just for simplicity purposes.
Once we also raise the pretty
Mhm.
out there.
Yeah.
You needed control, right? But
Yeah.
I just wondered that.
Yeah,
I never
no.
asked you why you
Yeah.
picked Maine.
I think it just kind of lined up with the Gulf of Mexico because there was like Alaska and I think some other one I can't remember off the top of my head, and it just seemed like those two kind of.
I think the total volume between the two would be definitely a lot different, but I think the per unit value in the market might be a little higher because of the high value, whatever.
Yeah.
items that they source up.
Yeah.
Oysters and stuff like that. So that might be one of the things to highlight also.
It might be worthwhile to think about, if we could find data on any of the other ones, kind of see if there is any. If we're replacing some of what's no longer coming from the Gulf of Mexico, especially crab for crabs,
Mhm.
it might be worthwhile to look to see if there's any other places that production increased or.
Okay.
Gulf of Maine, I think is a good match.
Mhm.
I never asked you why you picked that one before, but it seemed like a very good fit. We had a lot of similar substitutable products. You go over the results. Yeah. So the first one you ran. Can you tell me what that dummy means?
Which one?
The one that you have there highlighted.
Oh, that's the Gulf of Mexico after the Deepwater Horizon. So I believe that's 2010 and on, from 2010 to 2020.
Okay, but just for just for the Gulf of
Yes,
Mexico?
yes.
Okay. So what is that telling us then?
That's basically just showing us that they had a loss.
Overall, it lacked.
Yes, overall, yeah.
So the R square, that is very low. It's 0.23.
0.03 for the Model 1, but then for
Yeah,
Model,
for the second and third, it's 2, yes.
and that value hasn't changed at all.
The value doesn't change.
It's pretty,
All the three are OLS, is it?
I'm sorry.
All the three models are OLS, right?
Yes. Come on, guys, y'all gotta have some questions.
So if you're doing it from 2000 to 2020, are you seeing it like showing like the results of like the marine life like before and after?
Yes,
Is it like
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's continuous from 2000 to 2020.
Okay. But
Yes,
from 2020 or not 2010 from 2020 on, you're showing a decrease or?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. That's what that dummy actually is. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
it's the law, the difference in, you're using the variables, the income, right?
Yes,
So it's the difference in income,
yes.
after, in the Gulf of Mexico, specifically after the
Mhm.
water.
I know you're not talking about, from after 2020, but is your research showing of the marine life coming back after the oil or no?
From what I can tell, it's like the graphs, it's kind of remained consistent.
So you're saying from 2010 on, it's just kind of died?
Yes, but I mean, it's slowly coming back, but, and that's another thing that I thought about if somebody wanted to like build on from this study is like populations and how the populations are growing, not with just the commercial fishing industry, but the populations itself.
Did you run this at all with just the tail years, or just
I know, I didn't.
2020?
I did not.
2020 was last year?
Yes, yeah.
It is a panel, I mean, it's balanced, but but I wonder if you just look at those 2 years, maybe not even regression, I wonder,
Definitely try the log conversion, that will really improve those really huge parameter estimates, because
Okay.
that shows like 400,000% change,
Mhm.
that doesn't, you know, the way you integrated it, just maybe doing the log, just convert everything to log and run it and see if those improve. That might help, I think.
yeah, those numbers are huge, and
Yeah,
you're using
yeah,
just dummies for
yeah.
everything else.
Right.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed talking.
Well, thank you.
Somebody on the thing, I think, has a question. Give me a second, let me. Does somebody out there in, on our video have a question? Maybe not. Got some feedback that I assume was maybe, I can't do voice. Okay, if anybody has a question out there, maybe put your hand up. There's a little thumbs up, or,
You can type in the chat box.
yeah, you can type in the chat box and I'll ask the question for you. No? Oh, no, there we do have one. Okay. What are the real world implications of these findings?
That's my cousin's.
Yeah, well, you invited them.
Yeah, thanks, Al. So basically, it just shows, I feel like I need to be like looking her in the eyes. I'm saying this, you've just got to understand our relationship. So basically, Ellie, this just shows the commercial fishing industry and like I said, the impact on it. So I feel like I need to give you a better answer than that.
Were there any, participated, the Deepwater Horizon, did they have any damage or anything to?
Yes, I'm not exactly sure the dollar amount, but yes, they did have to pay.
Okay, so for the final version of this, it would be worthwhile to see what they had to pay and then to look at how much it cost impacting the commercial fishing industry and see if those kind of match up in any reasonable way.
Well, she's the really smart one, so that's why she has that. Anything else?
She just put something else up there.
I guess I'm asking, what should
What should agricultural professionals learn
Okay,
from these findings, and what would we do? What should we do better in the future?
Okay, so basically, like I said, I'm hoping that studies like these lead to stricter implications because I feel like, okay, companies pay a dollar amount and then it's behind them rather than
Okay,
yeah.
So you think that there should be a longer term?
Yes, yeah, because I mean, they've got
payments
all,
as
yeah,
opposed to,
yes.
as opposed to a lump sum.
yes. Because like I said, I mean, they pay the money and then it's behind them. Whereas, you know, things like the commercial fishing industry, the population, everything's still suffering while it's out of sight, out of mind for them.
I've never seen anything where somebody looked at doing a estimation of damages on an annual basis and kind of company pay. I've never seen anything like that. But that would be a very good deterrent if you could implement it.
They probably pay a lot more attention to what they're doing.
Yeah. One lump sum payment
Yes.
doesn't seem so daunting, but
It's like a tax, right?
Yeah.
Either or a tax or something.
yeah.
That's so by years.
Any other questions? Do students have any questions?
Do you think instead of, so you're looking at like the life that we eat and consume. So do you think that maybe instead of oil would be in the problem, if maybe it's overfishing? And like with population growth and it's coming in more demand to like for us to eat it, do you think that could affect these results at all?
From the research which this is just based on the research that I've done, it really never mentioned anything about overfishing. Because see, they closed the fishing industries down for a little while after. Yeah. Which I mean, that could be, I mean, that's a very good question. But like I said, it's one of those things I didn't really see.
One of the things you captured here was a trend prior to and a trend back. I mean, it's the continuous trend that you're following by having every year. So you're kind of accounting for that.
Yes, yeah.
In this model.
Why does the data go back?
Notice as far as like the oceanic, they're like little printouts that I got all the data from around 2000, 2001 was whenever they started doing that. Yeah.
That's exactly what.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
Is there anything for the last 2 years, 3 years?
Yes, there's,
Okay.
I just glanced at it, but I didn't run anything on it.
I might collect the rest of it, long as it's out there. It'll make it more pertinent. when
Yeah.
you're-
Right.
When you're putting the, I'm silent long enough.
It's like crickets.
An idea.
Kendall, you got something.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, you said they were blaming it on essentially global warming.
Yes.
What do you think the motive behind that would be? Or did you see anything about that? Or-
No, I really, it's just multiple sources that I looked at, which obviously I cited on in my paper. Multiple sources that I looked at just kept going back to that, back to that, back to that.
You know, if they had data to back that or?
Yes.
What interested you in this study? Then I was just curious.
Well, actually, the original plan was I was going to do it on East Palestine, Ohio, and like how it affected like their farming and stuff like that. And come to find out, we couldn't find any data on it, so we just kind of regrouped to this.
Just wanted to look at now, what the impacts were longer term. And obviously that happened very recently and there's no data on anything. So this is kind of something that I haven't seen anybody do a long-term study on any one of these, oil spills. Kind of good fit for doing the same thing.
That one is supposed to come. I don't know.
He had a meeting.
He had a meeting with this out.
But it's recorded.
Yes.
So
I didn't watch it. Yes.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
Thanks for listening to me ramble.
Oh, wait, there is another question. Is there any way to access this?
A copy of the slides. Everything to go to the iPod.
No, I can't see it either.
Is there any way for us on Zoom to access a copy of the slides?
Not on Zoom, but if she wants to
Yeah.
publish her slides, she can.
Yeah.
I can post them. So on my website, I will post the video link to this.
Okay.
It's at delmon.org. I'll post the video to this, and I can post your slides with it.
Perfect.
Doesn't help today, but it'll be there in a week or so.
That works.